My dear friends, we have here a gospel which contains a whole spirituality. We notice that the Lord is replying to a question of legal purity, and in replying he goes further than he need to. He gives a teaching which actually collocates all his teaching in the correct key in which he wants us to understand it. We have made of the faith that he gave us a religion, not a relationship. And in so doing, we have fallen back into what he was trying to correct already here when talking to the Pharisees. One can be in a safety zone, a comfort zone, by keeping rules. It can happen actually even in the monastic life. One can have the monastery functioning perfectly, but one can sometimes observe things which indicate that perhaps here or there elements of relationship might be lacking, either between brethren or sisters, or indeed between souls and their Maker. It can happen because one can get used to a certain mode of life and function by routine on automatic pilot. The Lord then is going into what really damages the soul. Let's look at one of these in particular. Pride. This element of reigning is precisely the one that has to be attacked head-on if there is to be a relationship. As long as we are something, we are not in our truth. The Lord said himself to St. Catherine of Siena, "Remember, my daughter, you are she who is not, and I am the one who am." And if we understand that truth, then we are in our truth when it comes to our relationship. The list goes into very thorny ones for our time: indecency, fornication, adultery. The whole realm of the imagination, that ongoing video that we have in our mind, watching and engaging in what is not good for us, and if we're not careful, nourishing the same. This last period I have been reflecting quite a lot on the way in which modern technology has damaged our religious life and indeed our Christian life in general. It has helped greatly. We can do far more than before in a short time. True, we can reach many souls. Even this evening we can perhaps reach souls through modern technology. But it doesn't stop there. If one compares the way in which, when we are alone, whether in the monastic life or in a family situation at home, when alone we tend to use what is electrified. It passes the time. It takes our attention. Now, in a situation of midwinter in Ireland, the electricity can easily go, for the wind is strong and wires fall. And then just like that, we are back in time. And as I prepared for this celebration, waiting for you to arrive and seeing how all one could do was think, because reading is difficult by candlelight when one is used to having clear light, then one is obliged healthily to let it happen. Just once, to do nothing at all, but let it be. And then to engage with one's mental world in an uncluttered way. And it occurred to me that that is the mode of activity and being that they have in certain monasteries. The first retreat in residence, that is living in, that I gave ever, or maybe the second, it was very early after ordination, was in a monastery in the south of France that had opted, as on Mount Athos, not to change a thing. Probably the most severe monastery in the West. The victims of the Sacred Heart. Actually, they're still in contact, they still write once a year, and when there's something happening. Strangely enough, they still have vocations. That's partly why they write, to say when professions are taking place. But there was a situation of unchanged, unhurried time and behaviour. The old rite, the old liturgy, double grill, no heating, no electricity downstairs, what I can make out. Just the past maintained. And that is what one will find in all the monasteries of Mount Athos. And therefore it was something similar to what we have this evening. Silence and the wind. For there, in that monastic colony, a whole republic of monks on Mount Athos, you have just the roaring of the waves and the wind at night. Time coming and going, morning to dusk, as it always has, and the heart free to listen to the still small voice. We are greatly handicapped. There are few occasions when we are actually alone with our thoughts. If we put on anything which emits someone else's noise, then we are not anymore on our own. And all our life, all our free time can be shared with the world, and in the end, with the one who rules it. It's much purer, much more virgin, much more simple, if we just have the sound of silence. So let's be aware of it. We are handicapped human beings in the 21st century, psychologically damaged, dependent on electricity and all it carries. One last one in this list, folly. It's the last one the Lord mentions, but it has to be looked at too. St. Paul, in the epistle to the Ephesians, does bring this up. This element of being it's difficult to translate the actual Greek, but it would come through as something like childishly jovial, light-heartedly trivial. The word used is eutrapelia, and it is something which has to be looked at, because the Lord here mentions it in a different form. This mode of going through life as though it were entirely a comedy and a game. That is the message given by light-hearted radio pumped at us in our shops and in any working place practically today. Fast music, a message coming through all the time which gives the impression that it's all great. It's not all great. Life is serious. And to go also from one evening to the other, as many men in Ireland do, in an atmosphere of light-heartedness bathed in Guinness, is a false mode. Life is not made of Guinness. It's not made of vulgarity. It's not made of man-made virility. True fortitude is of a different order. And one has but to think of all those who, even in Ireland, e.g. in the penal times, in the Celtic monastic times, conquered heaven with sweat and heroic fidelity, to see that we've come down a notch. Ireland is damaged by the media. So we finish there, but this Mass is being offered for the Holy Souls, so we remember that that is the crunch. These souls go on with their baggage, the use they've made of the one innings they had. And one day it'll be our turn, night after night, taking in what the electricity provides, e.g. on the cybersphere or the Gogglebox, is one thing. Time spent listening to the still, small voice is quite another, and the effect will be seen in the quality of our eternity.